Tonight, Scotland's top team, Humza Yousaf, appoints his new cabinet after being officially sworn in as First Minister.
And our immediate priority will be to tackle the cost of living crisis, to make sure we continue to invest in our public services and to progress our wellbeing economy. And that is going to be the team that is going to help me to deliver that.
Also making the headlines, a murder trial gets underway in Edinburgh. A man is accused of pushing his pregnant wife off Arthur's Seat. And sampling science, the lucky pupils who previewed the world's oldest science festival.
I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. First Minister Humza Yousaf has been officially sworn in at the Court of Session in Edinburgh and, with the formalities over, announced his first cabinet. There are big promotions for some of his strongest supporters in the SNP leadership contest, but no place for either of his opponents.
The First Minister says it's a team to deliver his radical, ambitious and progressive policy agenda for Scotland. His opponents say it will fail to unite his party or the country. Our political editor Colin Mackay is at Holyrood. So Colin, what do you make of the changes?
Well, for the continuity candidate, there's quite a lot of changes in Humza Yousaf's first government, his first cabinet. Only 2 cabinet ministers stay in the same posts as they were in before, and every member of his cabinet backed Humza Yousaf for the SNP leadership. So for all his talk of a big tent approach to that leadership, there's not much sign of it here. But Humza Yousaf is clearly a First Minister who's quite fond of firsts. This is the first ever cabinet with a majority of women that we've seen in Scotland. Out go Nicola Sturgeon, John Swinney. Kate Forbes refused rural affairs, as we told you last night, so she's out. And tonight there's no place in the cabinet for the SNP's deputy leader, Keith Brown. They will all return to the back benches. They'll have offices like the ones you see behind me in the Scottish Parliament. Now, that means big promotions for some of the younger MSPs. In fact, this will be the youngest cabinet ever. The First Minister says it's first class. His opponents say it's second rate. And here's our political reporter, Laura Alderman.
A reshuffle and a refresh for a party put through the ringer. Humza Yousaf unveiled his new cabinet today, the first ever with a female majority, holding on to some seasoned ministers and bringing in some new faces.
It's going to take forward a radical, progressive agenda that I've set out throughout this leadership contest and that I expect now to deliver for the people of Scotland. Our priorities will be, and our immediate priority will be, to tackle the cost of living crisis, to make sure we continue to invest in our public services and to progress our wellbeing economy. And that is going to be the team that is going to help me to deliver that.
As well as becoming Deputy First Minister, Shona Robison will also take on the finance brief. Michael Matheson moves to become NHS Recovery, Health and Social Care Secretary. Former teacher Jenny Gilruth is now in charge of education, taking over from Shirley Ann Somerville, who is now the Social Justice Secretary. Former Drugs Minister Angela Constance replaces Deputy Leader Keith Brown as Justice and Home Affairs Secretary. And new to the Cabinet, Mary McCallan gets a promotion to Net Zero Secretary. Neil Gray, an early Humza Yousaf supporter who ran his campaign, is elevated to Wellbeing Economy Minister. Party heavyweight Angus Robertson remains in his role as Constitution Secretary. And Marie Goujon also keeps her Rural Affairs job, despite it being offered to and rejected by Kate Forbes. Are you disappointed that Kate Forbes didn't take up your job offer?
Of course I'm disappointed, because Kate's exceptional. She's a great talent. She's somebody who's got a lot to give. I would have much rather had her in government, not just government, actually have her in cabinet. But she told me that she didn't she wanted a bit of time out of the limelight, as she described it in her own words. I understand that, I respect that. Kate is rightly popular and she's got some great ideas and exceptionally talented. I'm sorry that she didn't feel she was able to continue in government, but she is still a member of this party, and as her tweets showed last night and the words that she has put out, she's 100% behind this cabinet team. She's behind me as First Minister, and Kate has got a lot to give.
As Kate Forbes and Ivan McKee, two business brains, move to the back benches, can this cabinet deliver its promise of party unity?
I suggest probably not, although I don't want to start some hairs running here because the SNP is a very collegiate party and will stick together. All I can say with confidence is I would like to have seen Kate Forbes in there.
Opposition MSPs were pulling no punches today.
Well, I think the news of the cabinet reshuffle is really disappointing because what we've got is an out-of-depth First Minister with a second-rate cabinet. You know, I've seen some of these people in action before and they failed at the portfolios they've been given. For example, Shona Robson, you know, at Health, presiding over the scandal at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital that was subsequently covered up.
Well, it's more of the same. 6 of the 9 cabinet secretaries served around the cabinet table with Nicola Sturgeon, so the continuity candidate continues in the same approach as the former First Minister. I think it's also quite telling that the day after Humza Yousaf stopped being Scotland's Health Secretary, we now have a Cabinet Secretary for NHS recovery. I think that's an admission from the First Minister of the problems he left in Scotland's health service.
After Ramadan prayers in Bute House last night, Humza Yousaf was officially sworn in as First Minister this morning at the Court of Session. He then returned to his new official residence with his family. All smiles for the moment, but now the new First Minister has to try and bring his party back together, while a raft of political problems loom large for his government. Laura Alderman, STV News, Edinburgh.
And Colin, there have been other ministerial appointments today as well.
Yep, the reshuffle among junior ministers is still going on. It's expected to go on for the next couple of hours, although the focus has shifted from Bute House, where the Cabinet was appointed, to here in the Scottish Parliament for the juniors. They'll try and get them all done tonight so that they can get them all ratified by Parliament before the Easter break. The first in this afternoon was Jamie Hepburn. He's going to be the Independence Minister. That's going to be a position that's supposedly very close to the new First Minister. A few ministers who are leaving government: Claire Hawkey, Ivan McKee, which we knew about, and just in the last few minutes, Ben McPherson. He had, I gather, been offered transport, but he'd hoped for a position in the Cabinet, so wasn't very happy that he didn't get that, so he's leaving government. Coming in, Natalie Dawn from Renfrewshire, Emma Roddick from Highlands and Islands, Paul McLennan from East Lothian, Joe Fitzpatrick and Graham Day returning. And I gather because Ben McPherson is leaving, there could be a place for Gillian Martin, who almost made it into government before, but was scuppered by some blogs that she'd posted in the past. But you'll see all the details of the full reshuffle on the STV website.
And of course, Colin, no jobs for either of her leadership opponents.
Kate Forbes said no, Ash Regan wasn't asked. They are both raising questions about the reuniting of the SNP after what was a deeply divisive leadership contest. And even among the junior ministers, they are all so far loyal to Humza Yousaf. They supported him for the leadership. No room even for supporters of his opponents. Now that leads to another concern for the business community, for example, with the departure of Kate Forbes and Ivan McKee from government. Now Neil Gray will be in charge of the well-being economy, and that includes the actual economy, but he doesn't have a business background. And then you have the Deputy First Minister, Shona Robison. She's been in charge of a lot of spending departments. She's spent a lot of government money over the years, but now she holds the purse strings, and her opponents really don't think that she is up to the job, but she sounds pretty confident about it, and you can hear more from her talking about that on Scotland Tonight.
Colin, at the Scottish Parliament, thank you.
A man has gone on trial accused of murdering his wife and causing the death of their unborn child by pushing her off Arthur's Seats in Edinburgh. Kashif Anwar is alleged to have killed Fawzia Javid while visiting from Yorkshire in September 2021.
Anwar is also charged with behaving in a threatening and abusive manner on the day before Ms Javid's death. Both charges are alleged to be aggravated by involving the abuse of a partner or an ex-partner. Kay Nicholson reports.
After they were sworn in this afternoon, the jury was read a list of established facts about this case. They were told that 29-year-old Anwar married Ms Javid on Christmas Day 2020, having been in a relationship since the previous summer. The couple had travelled to Edinburgh and checked into the Marriott Residence Inn at the Quarter Mile on the 31st of August 2021. They'd been due to stay there for 4 nights. Ms Javid died on Arthur's Seat 2 days later. A post-mortem concluded that her cause of death had been complications from multiple injuries and a fall from height. Anwar faces 2 charges, one of murder and the other of behaving in a threatening and abusive manner. The first witness in this case is due to be called tomorrow morning, and the trial is expected to last for around a fortnight. Kay Nicholson, STV News at the High Court in Edinburgh.
Families of prisoners are calling for more support after research found costs are pushing many into extreme food and fuel poverty. The charity Families Outside says the burden falls disproportionately on women.
Costs can include travel for visits, postage, as well as paying money into accounts. The Scottish Prison Service says it has introduced a number of measures to help. Here's our political correspondent, Ewan Petrie.
It's really stressed trying to get everything organised, to get the kids out the door, to go to a visit. If you're late for a visit, you don't get in. So you've got to travel all that distance back home. With kids, it's crying.
Anne's husband has been in prison for 2 years. She's had to cut back on food and clothes for herself to pay transport costs for visits.
It's hard because people look at you and go, it's only this and that to get there, but in my situation, it's money we haven't got sometimes to get there, and we're trying to live on so much a month.
Around 27,000 children in Scotland are affected by a parent's imprisonment, more than those affected by divorce.
Myself and families out there are all suffering and doing the sentence along with their families. We're doing the full sentence the same as them. I think they should be able to put like transport on for families. It's struggling. It would be a big, massive improvement.
This report found prison creates, sustains and entrenches poverty for the families left behind. The costs fall disproportionately to women, affecting their physical and mental health. Remand is particularly costly. Families spent on average £300 per month providing support. During prison sentences, they spent £180.
The people who are left behind, again, they're not the ones who've committed the offence. They've not been convicted of anything, and yet they're the ones who have to pick up the pieces. They're the ones who are left behind, often with half the income they had before, and perhaps in more difficult circumstances in terms of benefits and things as well.
My kids keep me going. I look at them every day and they keep me strong.
The Scottish Prison Service says it is offering additional help, including a temporary uplift in prisoner pay and absorbing some inflationary price increases in its canteens. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
To other stories, and the charity Rape Crisis Scotland says the punishment handed to one of Scotland's top lawyers is a complete disgrace. The criminal defence advocate Brian McConaughey was given a severe written censure and an £8,000 fine by the Faculty of Advocates for professional misconduct. He sent WhatsApp messages to a woman, including an intimate photograph of himself taken in the toilets at the High Court in Livingston.
Police searching for a missing camper from Rosyth are investigating 2 possible sightings of the man. Rhys Roger was camping on the banks of Loch Rannoch in Perthshire last Saturday. He was last seen at 11:30 that night on a nearby road. Officers are appealing for anyone with information to contact them.
School and college coursework and exams that were cancelled during the COVID-19 pandemic are to resume. The Scottish Qualifications Authority has confirmed most National 5s, Highers and Advanced Highers for practical subjects will now return for the 2023-24 academic year. The SQA has written to schools and colleges today with details of the arrangements. Police are investigating the murder of a 41-year-old woman in Ayrshire. Her body was found at a property in the outskirts of Ayr on Monday. Officers are carrying out door-to-door inquiries in the area, as Vanessa Taft now reports.
An extensive investigation is taking place here in South Ayrshire as police and specialist detectives try to establish a motive for the murder of this 41-year-old woman. They were called to a block of flats in Nursery Halls in the Whitlets area after 10 a.m. on Monday morning. The woman was pronounced dead at the property. Since then, the police have been carrying out door-to-door inquiries in the area. They're trying to figure out the last time she was seen alive and the circumstances leading up to her death. Police say they want anyone with information, no matter how insignificant, to contact them. They're also appealing for dashcam or private CCTV footage, which could help with this murder investigation. Additional patrols are taking place in the area, and members of the public who have concerns are being encouraged to contact the police.
Vanessa Taff reporting there from Ayr. To other stories in the West, and a Rangers fan who threw a bottle at a Celtic physio during an Old Firm game has been jailed for 12 months. 33-year-old Alan Crawford from Grangemouth threw the bottle at Daniel Freeham from the West Enclosure at Ibrox on April the 3rd last year. Crawford pled guilty at Glasgow Sheriff Court to assaulting Mr Friel, causing severe injury and permanent disfigurement. CalMac is cancelling and altering sailings on many routes because its winter maintenance programme has overrun. And there will be no sailings between Mallaig, Oban and Lochboisdale in South Uist for 6 weeks from the 5th of April. Meanwhile, there is continued disruption in the ferry operator's Uig sailings on the Isle of Skye. The MV Hebrides is out of action after a fire in the engine room yesterday. The manager of Glasgow's Pavilion Theatre, Ian Gordon, is standing down after 47 years in the role. In a statement, Mr Gordon said his health had been a factor in the decision. The 119-year-old building is set for takeover by the Trafalgar Entertainment Group. Plans to sell the theatre to the Ambassador Theatre Group for £3.9 million fell through last year. And one of Glasgow's best-loved museums is celebrating 1 year since it reopened after major refurbishment works. The Burrell Collection at Pollock Park has welcomed more than 600,000 visitors, and almost 3/4 of them were visiting for the first time. Now, Raman will be here next with all the highlights from last night's Scottish victory over Spain at Hampden. But first, here's Sean with a look ahead to what's coming up in the weather in a few minutes' time.
Well, it's certainly feeling a lot milder out there today. Temperatures about 13-14 degrees. We're in this southerly airflow. We stay like that over the next couple of days, but there's going to be further outbreaks of rain. Weather quieter later on in the weekend, and tonight we'll have a quick glance ahead at what we can expect for Easter weekend too. Join me later for all the details.
OK, sport now, and what a result for Scotland last night, Raman.
What a result indeed, Kellyanne. It was a special night at Hampden last night, and the win over Spain has put Steve Clarke's men in pole position to qualify from their group. Good evening. This is why you play football, to give the nation nights like this. The words of Callum McGregor after Scotland's stunning win over Spain in their Euro qualifier. The midfielder says the players are proud of their performance as the Scots secured their first victory over Spain in 39 years. Ronnie Charters reports.
This is why you play football, to give the supporters nights like this, to give the nation nights like this. I watched the last one here at it was 2010, 2011, I was in the stands watching it, and we nearly got a result that night, but to be on the pitch and deliver a result for the supporters and the nation is fantastic. It's something that we're all really proud of.
We have a good group. We're working hard to get better and better. I think tonight was a chance to put our mark in the group. We want to be competitive against the top team, and that's what we did tonight.
And it's fair to say the Tartan Army certainly left Hampden with a spring in their step.
We deserve the 3 points. Roll on, Germany. Come on, Scotland!
They're just the best team in the world. We'll win the Euros.
We've been to 3 games now, and not all 3 games we've managed to win, which is crazy. So we're going to come to every Scotland game in future as well.
And this is where the result leaves Group A. After 2 wins from 2, Scotland sit top. Spain second on 3 points. Norway and Georgia a point each after their 1-1 draw yesterday, with Cyprus bottom.
We're certainly not getting carried away for ourselves, that's for sure. We're only 2 games into this group, and we'll be here to play an away game as well. They'll be tough when you look at some of the opponents we've got. So obviously June's going to be a massive trip for us as well. The main focus will be to get 2 more positive results in that one.
The 14th of November 1984, a night when Scotland famously conquered the Spanish.
Well, former Scotland manager Alex McLeish has described last night's performance as exceptional, and he believes it ranks right up there with the great Scottish wins.
It takes me back a long way to
Spain victory way back in the day, 84, and also there's talk of the Paris game. So, you know, great memories, and that triggered many of them. That performance last night was exceptional. Scotland did the basics extremely well, defended well, were organised well, and of course getting 2 goals from the big emerging Scott McTominay coming on and almost like a number 10.
Did it give you great satisfaction that it was McTominay on the score sheet, Alex? He's a player you brought into the Scotland setup.
Yeah, listen, you know, it's Jose Mourinho was pretty vociferous at the time, you know, and said, Alec, get down here and see Big Scott and get him into that Scotland team. You see the progress that the big man's made, not only with Scotland but with Man United, and the more he makes progress with his club, the better it becomes for our country.
Well, Spain captain Rodri has criticised Scotland's tactics. He's accused Steve Clarke's men of time wasting and believes the referee wasn't strong enough.
It's the way they play. You have to respect that. At the end, for me, it's a bit rubbish because it's always wasting time. They, they provoke you, and they always fall. Like, this is, for me, it's not football. You have to try to, for the speed of the sport, you have to move on. But the referee has to take part on this, and if it says nothing.
So Spain's captain unhappy after last night's qualifier. Scotland's next match is away to Norway in June, and they'll certainly go there full of confidence. That is all we sport tonight, folks.
Good to see you all again, Rama.
Brilliant.
It was. Sean, how's the weather?
Things are hotting up. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
A very good evening to you. Well, we've had plenty of rain once again during today, some quite heavy bursts as well, but the bulk of that rain now clearing away to the northeast, and for most of us it becomes much drier through the night. There'll still be a few scattered showers around. Now, even though we've got those clearer spells coming through tonight, temperatures stay pretty high. We're still in that very mild airflow. Temperatures about 8 or 9 degrees. Now, tomorrow, to start the day, it's largely dry with sunshine. You can see some pretty heavy-looking showers out over the Atlantic, and some of those showers will be heading our way. I expect probably about midday we'll start to see those showers really get going, and a few of those will be on the heavy side, especially further in across the mainland towards the likes of Falkirk, Clackmannanshire, Fife and around the Lothians. Fewer and further between in the west. Top temperatures tomorrow up to highs of 14 or even 15 degrees further east. So in the sunny spells between those showers, it will feel very pleasant. Now, we're going to go into more of an easterly airflow on Friday. That means lowest temperatures in eastern parts here in the west. Our temperatures should get up to about 13 to 14 degrees, but yes, not looking very nice on Friday. A lot of cloud and outbreaks of rain. Pressure building as we go through the weekend. If you've got a barometer at home, you'll notice the needle going all the way up to about 1,025, probably into the early part of next week. Higher pressure generally next week, and it looks as if that does stay and our computer models are right for the Easter weekend, of course that is the next weekend, a lot of dry and bright weather, and also could be quite a bit warmer. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, test tubes, lab coats and goggles at the ready, as this weekend sees one of the biggest and oldest science festivals in Europe return to Scotland, offering hands-on activities, talks and exhibitions for budding boffins of all ages.
The Edinburgh Science Festival starts this Saturday, lasting for 16 days. A reporter, Vanessa Kennedy, joined some lucky primary school pupils for a preview of what's in store.
These primary school pupils are sampling science on a whole new level, from dissections
steady now,
to learning about wind energy. They're getting to grips with the fun of experimenting.
Here was the brain surgery. We had to take some blood clots out.
We had to look from a camera and we couldn't see directly what we were doing, and we had to take it out and put it in the bowl.
You get to make all these new creative stuff. And it's just so fun that you want to make more.
Edinburgh Science Festival is the world's first public celebration of science and technology, and still one of Europe's largest science festivals. It plays host to a whole range of ways to inspire people of all ages to get involved in learning about the wonders of our world.
Those behind the renowned event say it's important to see the beauty of science from a young age.
Science is central to all aspects of our lives. It's at the heart of so many of the things that affect us as individuals, as society, as a planet, and it's really important that people understand that it's not something to be afraid of, that they can access it in fun, interesting ways, that it can be a career opportunity open to girls as well as to boys, enabling young people to get involved in science and play a really useful part in ensuring a sustainable future.
As well as interactive activities, the festival will host various events in venues across the city. It's hoped that over this year's Easter holidays, young people's imaginations will be sparked by all science has to offer. Vanessa Kennedy, STV News Edinburgh.
Scientists of the future, perhaps. I'll be back with Scotland Tonight at 10:40.
And we're back again tomorrow at 6. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Good night.